Okay, then we have here the hemoglobin and hematocrit requirements. So for allogenic donation, pag sinabing allogenic, ang donor sa recipient ay magkaibang tao. So for that, our hemoglobin would be at least be 12.5 grams per DL. For hematocrit should be at least a 38%. Okay, for our autologous donation, so pag sinabing autologous donation, ikaw ang donor ng blood, ikaw din ang recipient. So our hemoglobin requirement should be at least 11 grams per DL. For our hematocrit should be at least 33%. Okay, you can perform your hemoglobin here by the copper sulfate method. So your copper sulfate would have a specific gravity of 1.053. That's equivalent to your that's equivalent to your 12.5 grams per DL na hemoglobin. Principle nito, we have here your copper sulfate. I-drop ko lang ng blood ng patient dito. So pag nag-sink, so mag-drop ka dito, tapos dito siya pupunta sa gitna, eventually mag-sink siya pababa, it will signify na mabigat ang blood ng patient natin. Signifying here that our patient's hemoglobin is more than 1.053 specific gravity or more than 12.5 grams per DL na hemoglobin, signifying that the patient is not anemic. On the other hand, pag nag-drop ka ng drop ng blood dito, tapos pumunta dito sa gitna, then nag-float dito sa upper surface, it will signify that the specific gravity of the blood of the patient is less than 1.053, signifying also here that the hemoglobin content of the patient also less than 12.5 grams per DL. That would mean here that our patient is anemic. Okay, then we have here the informed consent. So prior to blood donation, the patient should sign an informed consent. Informed consent is a consent that will eventually explain to the patient what the procedure is all about, and the patient here is agreeing about the procedure. So dapat palagi nakasign ang patient natin. Okay, we have here the different types of our donation. So pwede siyang allogenic. Again, pag sinabing allogenic, the donor and the recipient are two different individual. Autologous donation, on the other hand, so our patient, our recipient, and our donor, siya mismo. Isa lang. And your apheresis program with the collection of our apheresis machine. Okay, so first we have here your autologous donation. Okay, autologous donation is a type of the blood donation wherein the donor tried to donate his blood, and eventually that blood is also for himself. That's why tinatawag siyang donor-recipient na donation process. Because again, the donor-recipient are equal. I mean, there are only one person. Okay, this one is safer compared with our allogenic donation because eventually in the autologous donation, since sarili mo namang blood, so most likely walang error in compatibility testing and walang mangyari sa ating transfusion reaction related to your incompatibility because it is your own blood. Unlike with allogenic donation, pag magkaiba ang recipient, magkaiba ang donor natin, so may tendency na magkakaroon ng transfusion reaction related to your incompatibility. But of course, that will not be problem you're encountering here with our autologous donation kasi sarili mo namang blood isasalin sa'yo. Okay, then we have here the different types of our autologous donation. The first one, so we classify our autologous donation as preoperative, normovolemic hemodilution, intraoperative, and we have also here the postoperative donation. The first one, we have your preoperative donation. So, pinabing preoperative, so this is being done prior to the operative or operation. So, bago mag-undergo ng surgical operation ng patient natin, magdodonate na siya ng blood. Okay, this is applicable here for the surgical operations which are not emergency na mga surgical operations. So, surgical operation which can be scheduled. So, pwede siyang mamimili kung kailan ka mag-perform ng surgical operation. Hindi siya for emergency basis. With that, since nakaschedule naman siya, so the patient will still have here the time to donate the blood prior to the surgical operation. Okay, the last donation here na pwedeng i-allow natin mag-donate ng blood ng patient natin prior to the surgical operation should be 3 days. Hindi siya pwedeng na kinabukasan na or 1 day or 2 days prior to surgical operation. Hindi pwede, dapat 3 days. Yan ang pinaka-earliest time natin. Why 3 days here? Because of course, prior to the surgical operation, the patient will be allowed to donate. Magdodonate siya ng blood and therefore kukuha ka ng blood ng patient natin. So pag nag-undergo ng surgical operation patient natin, magkakaroon ng blood loss ang patient natin. And therefore, so baka kinuha naman siya ng blood, kukunti yung blood niya, tapos na blood loss pa siya during the surgical operation, baka sobrang lababa na magiging RBC ni patient natin. So, baka mamamatay ang patient. 3 days will eventually prior to the surgical operation will provide the patient's body to have a time para i-replenish niya ang mga na blood na loss niya or because of the blood donation. Requirements, so age walang requirement kasi autologous naman ito. Hemoglobins should at least be 11 grams per DL. Hematocrit should be at least 33%. ABOR typing, so sarili mo naman. Antibody screening is an optional one. Serological test, iti-test mo pa bang blood mo for test for the malaria, HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. So usually ginagawa lang natin siya pag ang transfusion facility, collection facility are equal or the same. What do you mean by that one? Collection facility, kung saan ka kinuwanan o mag-donate ng blood. Ang ating transfusion facility, kung saan ka mag-perform ng surgical operation patient. Kaya for example, kung ang hospital, kung saan ka mag-donate ng blood at doon ka din sa salinan or gagawa ng surgical operation, mag-isa lang siya or pareho lang siya, then you can perform serological test only once. Pero pag magkaiba, like iba ang blood or iba ang hospital na nag-donate ka ng blood, tapos iba din ang hospital na kung saan ka perform ng surgical operation na doon ka sa salinan, then dapat dalawang beses ka ipaperform na serological test for your infectious diseases. Compatibility testing, cross-matching, not a requirement. Okay, especially pag ang ating collection facility and our transfusion facility are the same. Okay, basically that one is compatibility testing. So, since nasarili mo namang blood yan, so we are assuming na wala magkakaroon ng transfusion reaction because sarili mo namang blood. Okay, not unless na nagkamali ng label, baka itong blood na to, akala nila ito yung blood na dinonate mo, tapos iba ang sinalin sa'yo. So, that become an error for that. But most likely, pag pareho lang din naman, so lesser chance na magkamali ng blood transfusion. And therefore, hindi siya nagiging pinaka-requirement. So, pwede natin hindi ka na mag-perform ng compatibility testing. It's because, again, sarili mo namang blood na patient ang i-transfuse sa patient natin. In the next type of autologous donation, we have your normal volemic hemodilution. This is the process of the blood collection prior to your surgical operation, immediately before the surgical operation, so the blood is being collected from the patient. So you're collecting the blood and then you try to infuse crystalloid or the colloid that would allow the patient to maintain the plasma volume. However, because of the infusion of your crystalloid and colloid, it tend to decrease the hematocrit of the patient. So we have here the ratio of the infusion for the crystalloid 3:1 and for colloid 1:1. Again, this is the type of the autologous donation that's being done immediately prior to the surgical operation and the patient is being given with the anesthesia. Okay, the blood is transfused. Kailan ka mag-transfuse ng blood? So the blood is being transfused towards the end of your surgical operation or even immediately after your surgical operation. And the blood should eventually be stored at room temperature. Okay, for 8 hours. So pwede siya magstay and then try to transfuse. Or pwede mo namang i-transfuse ang collected na blood prior to surgical operation here within 24 hours provided ay naka-ref ang specimen natin. So advantage nito, since ang blood ay kinolect doon sa operating room, hindi siya dinala sa blood bank not unless store that one in the blood bank ref after 24 hours. So, ang advantage niyan is hindi magkakamali ng blood transfusion. Or eventually, since ito ay collected in your operating room, so automatic na ang blood na yun ay para sa patient na yun. Hindi ka na magkakamali na baka ibang unit of the blood ang makukuha mo or may bigay mo sa patient if you try to store it pabalik sa blood bank pa. Okay, the next one, we have your intraoperative collection procedure. So this is the autologous donation wherein the blood is being collected during the surgical operation. You try to collect the blood at the surgical site. Okay, sa mga dugo na lumabas sa surgical site niya, na inoperahan siya, yun ay collect mo and then try to process that one. How are you going to process the blood you collect in the surgical site? You need to wash to remove here your anticoagulation factors, your free hemoglobin, your debris, and even your plasma. And after that one, you need to concentrate in order for you to have a hematocrit of that by 50 to 60%. Okay, so the blood may be contaminated since you are collecting it on the surgical site, especially sa mga body parts na malapit sa tiyan ni patient. So the blood might eventually be contaminated by the bowel or dumi ni patient natin. It might also be contaminated with amniotic fluid or even the urine. Okay, so you need to transfuse the blood collected on that after processing, okay, within 6 hours if your blood has been stored at room temperature. Or you can transfuse that one within 24 hours provided that your blood collected after processing that one has been stored at 1 to 6 degrees Celsius or your refrigerator temperature. Advantages. Number one, hindi lumalabas ang ating unit of the blood in the emergency room ay in the operating room and therefore safe siya because hindi ka magkakamali na talagang para yun sa patient natin. Another one, no additional cost of the storage kasi hindi siya store sa blood bank ref. Okay, so therefore hindi naman si charge ng extra for that. Ang pinaka-disadvantage, since you are collecting your unit of the blood in surgical site, hindi siya enough. Ganun ba kadami ang dugo makukuha mo sa surgical site? So yun, magiging disadvantage. It will not be enough for the entire blood transfusion of the patient. So therefore, mangangailangan ka pa ng another blood. This is your allogenic blood unit. Mean to say the one is, okay, maghahanap ka ng donor or available na blood in a blood bank in order for you to transfuse in addition to the blood that's being collected, the surgical site has been processed. And of course, here, high cost of your instrument. So, ipaprocess mo pa kasi siya. So, medyo, okay, mahal ang processing fee because of the instrument used for that. So, yun lang. So, yun ang magiging disadvantages. Okay, the last one, type of your autologous donation, we have your postoperative collection procedure. Okay, from the words of postoperative collection is being collected your blood here after the surgical operation, but you're collecting the blood from the surgical drainage tube attached to your surgical site. The blood collected with this type of your autologous donation is partially hemolyzed, defibrinated, and partially diluted. Okay, so this one is prone to your transfusion reaction because the blood might be contaminated with our activated coagulation factors, with the presence of your fibrinogenation products, or even the presence of our cytokines. Okay, transfusion here, kailan ka magta-transfuse, should be done here within 6 hours of your collection. Within 6 hours of collection, not transfusion. Approximately, you are transfusing here for not more than 1,400 ml of the blood to the patient. Okay, then we have also here the directed donors. Pag sinabing directed donor, this is a type of the blood donation wherein ang ating donor nagdo-donate ng blood for someone else. So may naka-intend na kung para kanino ang donated na blood niya. Someone, most likely relatives niya nangangailangan. So that blood is intended for an intended na recipient. That become your directed donor. Okay, now we go to your Ferrous program. So, Ferrous blood collection procedure is a type collection wherein you are collecting the blood and allowing that one to pass through your apheresis machine. Apheresis machine will try to collect the necessary blood component lang. Like if you are doing only the platelet concentrate lang, so ang collect lang ng apheresis machine natin will only be platelet concentrate. All the other blood component will be returned back to the patient. So, dito isa nakalagay, kuha na siya ng dugo dito, dadaan sa machine, then tubing, kukolect lang ng machine natin ang kailangan mo na unit ng blood, ang ibang unit ibabalik na sa patient's body. That's your apheresis program. Okay, first one, we have your platelet apheresis. Okay, the platelet apheresis program, the patient can donate the platelet here, concentrate through your apheresis program to become your single donor na platelet concentrate. The patient can donate here within 48 hours intervals. Every 48 hours, the patient can be allowed to donate, provided that one is not more than twice in a week and not more than 24 times in a year. Okay, contraindicated. So, when the patient is donating unit of blood for the platelet concentrate, number one, dapat the patient should not be on the aspirin therapy because the aspirin tend to decrease your platelet count 3 days prior to the blood collection. The patient should not also be taking Feldine for 2 days or even your Ticlid and Plavix for 14 days because also those are contraindicated for your platelet production. Okay, we have here for the frequent donor. So, palagi siya nagdo-donate ng kanyang platelet concentrate. Okay, for your platelet pheresis program. So, okay, for every 4 weeks, dapat tine-check natin ang platelet count ng patient. Since nagdo-donate ka ng platelets to your to your blood, nagdo-donate ka ng platelets mo, so baka maubusan ka ng platelets. So you need to check that one for every 4 weeks. Dapat ang platelet count ng patient would be not less than 150,000. So like for example, kung ito si donor natin, palagi siya nagdo-donate tapos ang platelet count niya during the time after 4 weeks ay bumaba sa 150,000, huwag mo muna siyang pa-donate. Wait until the patient were able to have an increase na platelet count. Remember kung sobrang baba ng platelet count natin, magbi-bleed ang patient natin. Okay, testing requirement for your platelet concentrate na unit of the blood. Number one, you try to check for the ABO typing, for the RH typing, for the antibody screening. Serological test is also a requirement. How about compatibility testing? So prior to transfusion of your platelet concentrate to your donor, you don't need to perform your cross-matching procedure or compatibility testing. Bakit hindi kailangan natin mag-perform ng compatibility testing? Because your platelet concentrate is a plasma. Wala itong RBC. And therefore, walang in-expect tayo na reaction kasi wala ka namang antigen. Okay, provided here that the unit of your platelet concentrate has not been contaminated with RBC. Pag-perform ka lang ng cross-matching procedure pag may antigen na present sa ating unit of the blood when that one has been contaminated with your RBC for more than 2 ml. Pero pag wala ka makitang mga red naman na mga RBC, then okay, salin mo na, hindi magkakaroon ng reaction yan. Kasi again, para magkaroon ng reaction yung recipient natin mga antibody, ang donated blood mo naman walang antigen. Because remember that your platelet concentrate ay wala namang RBC ito. Provided again na hindi siya na-contaminate ng RBC natin not more than 2 ml na RBC. Okay, another one, you can also donate through your Ferrous program. We have your plasma. So that's your plasma pheresis. Okay, so the patient or the donor can donate here the plasma every 48 hours interval, provided na it will able to donate here not more than twice in a week. Okay, so we classify the donor here as either frequent or serial. Pag frequent, so once in every 4 weeks lang siya. Pag serial, so pwede siya every 48 hours, provided na hindi siya twice, hindi siya more than twice in a week. Mean to say, hindi pwedeng 3 beses siya in a week. Okay, because na pag sobrang donate mo ng plasma, baka ikaw maubusan ng plasma. Okay, so especially here for the serial na plasma donor, you need to check for the RBC loss. Okay, it should not be less than 25 ml per week or not more than 200 ml RBC loss in 8 weeks. So, pag sobrang dami ng na-loss ng patient natin, so stop muna, pagpahingayin mo muna ang patient natin. Okay, so requirements, so you need to check for the ABO, RH. Okay, we have also here antibody screen. We have also here serological testing. You need to check pa din. Plus, cross-matching procedure. For your cross-matching compatibility testing, so it's not a requirement because again, wala namang RBC itong ating plasma concentrate. So, provided again, just like in our platelet pheresis or platelet concentrate, hindi siya na-contaminate ng RBC natin for more than 2 ml. Pag na-contaminate siya ng RBC for more than 2 ml, then that's the only time we're going to perform your compatibility testing. Okay, the next one, we have your leukapheresis. So, primarily for collecting your leukocyte or our WBC. So, this is ideal for this patient na mababang kanilang WBC count. So, the patients with the leukopenia. So, may mga For example, those patient natin na mga nag-undergoing ng chemotherapy, so since pinapatay ng chemotherapeutic agent ang kanilang cells including their WBC, they tend to they have a decreased na WBC count resulting to your leukopenia. Remember that pag mababa ang WBC count ng patient natin, the patient will be prone to your infection because our WBC serve as our soldier against your infection. And therefore, kailangan ka na bigyan natin ng granulocyte concentrate ang ating patient. Okay, therapeutic dose here of your granulocyte concentrate is 1 times 10 to the 11 for 5 consecutive days. Meaning to say, itong bibigay mo sa patient for 5 days para mag-increase ang kanyang WBC count. So, in each of your granulocyte concentrate, dapat meron kang ganito na WBC count 1 times 10 to the 11. Okay, so since the patient will be allowed donating here the WBC, so dapat madami siyang WBC sa kanyang katawan. How are you going to induce here an increase in the RBC production with your donor? Number one, you can give hydroxyethyl starch. Hydroxyethyl starch here tend to increase your WBC harvest because this one is an effective na sedimenting agent that try to increase the separation of your RBC from your WBC, and therefore allowing madami ka ma-recover na WBC. Another one, corticosteroid. Corticosteroid try to induce your WBC na marginating pool. Kasi namin marginating nakastick dito sa gilid ng blood vessels natin para pumunta sila dito sa circulation natin and eventually increasing the WBC count of the patient. Corticosteroid. Growth factors are your cytokines. Remember that in our hematopoiesis, may mga growth factors tayo in order to induce here the proliferation and differentiation ng ating hematopoietic stem cells para dumami ang ating blood cell production. Okay, these growth factors tend to increase your WBC count here by 4 to 8 times compared with your corticosteroids and your hydroxyethyl starch. Requirement then, so you need to perform sa unit ng blood bag ni patient natin with your granulocyte concentrate. You need to check number 1, ABO type, RH type known, perform also antibody screening, serological testing for your infectious diseases. Cross-matching procedure before magsalin sa patient natin is not a requirement. Again, because wala itong RBC. So, walang antigen, so safe tayo mag-blood transfusion. Provided again that your unit here of your blood has not been contaminated by the RBC for more than 2 ml. So, pag more than 2 ml, okay, so medyo delikado na yan, then you perform your compatibility testing. Okay, then we have also here the double RBC pheresis. So for the double RBC pheresis, you are collecting here 2 units of your blood. So with that, the interval of the donation of the patient here would be 16 weeks. Di ba, pag 1 unit is 8 weeks, since the patient here is donating 2 units of the RBC, then the patient will be have your deferment for 16 weeks. Interval before the patient will still be allowed to donate. Requirement, so number 1, hematocrit should be at least 40%. For the male patient, should at least be 130 pounds with at least be 5'1" height. For the female naman, at least should be 150 pounds and should be 5'5" na height. So medyo dapat malaki ang patient natin for the babae kasi para makayanan nila makapag-donate ng 2 unit ng RBC natin. Therefore, mas mabigat siya at saka dapat mas matangkad. Okay, then we have here the whole blood collection procedure. So, paano tayo mag-bleed ng donor natin? Number 1, you need to identify the patient. Second one, apply tourniquet in the forearm and try to select the appropriate na vein they're going to puncture. So, dapat mas pinaka-stable na vein natin dito because we'll be collecting too much blood of that, so dapat stable siya. And after that one, perform here your iodophore scrub. So, clean the site by alcohol, followed by your povidone iodine, followed by your alcohol in circular motion. Okay, then after that one, you clamp the tubing. So, kung ito ang ating blood bag, pangit ng drawing. Kung itong blood bag natin, diba, may tubing ka dito, ito yung needle natin. Okay, lalagyan mo muna dito ng clamp. Okay, bago ka mag-insert. Okay, so para hindi bumulwak ang ating blood. Then after that one, you try to reapply your tourniquet. Okay, and then try to perform here the puncturing. Try to puncture the vein. You uncap your needle. Okay, and then try to puncture this one. Okay, so make sure na hindi ka mag-hit directly sa vein na patient, but rather dito ka sa medyo sa baba muna ng skin natin bago ka tumusok pa sa kanyang vein. Huwag kang tumusok directly to the vein of the patient because it will spatter the blood of the patient. And after mo na hit, magkakaroon ng backflow dito. After that one, you remove ang clamp mo dito. Pag ni-remove mo ito, magpa-flow ng blood natin dito. Then try to secure your needle here by application of your micropore tape. So, lagyan mo dito ng micropore dito, para hindi gumagalaw ang needle natin. Okay, then instruct the patient to open and close his fist. Okay, wait until na mapuno itong blood natin. So, just estimate lang natin. So, pag medyo mataba na siya, puputok na siya, you stop. Okay, the entire collection procedure. Then after that one, pag nag-stop ka na, remove mo muna ang tourniquet. Okay, then you try to remove your micropore tape here. Okay, then you reapply your clamp. Okay, and then you try to remove the needle here. Pag ni-remove mo ng needle dito, you apply pressure in this area. Apply bandage, apply micropore tape. Okay, and then try to instruct the patient na i-fold niya para eventually mag-stop ang bleeding ng patient natin. Okay, then we have also here the post-donation instructions. Okay, so these are some reminders that we need to give to our patient, to our donor, before leaving the blood bank. Number one, so tell the donor here to contact the blood bank if anything happens at home. So any illness arises, fever, headaches. Okay, another one, do not smoke. Okay, for 1.5 hour after the donation. To eat and drink enough water here, even food or even fruit juices. Okay, another one, leave the bandage for a few hours in the forearm para hindi mag-bleed. Do not also perform strenuous exercise. Baka, sugat. Another one, we have here the donor reactions. Mild, like syncope or fainting. So all you need to do here is, remove the tourniquet, withdraw the needle, provides an adequate airways, loosen the clothing of the patient, and all. Okay, mild with the loss of the consciousness. So stop the venipuncture, withdraw the needle, notify your blood bank physician, give oxygen, 95% oxygen and 5% carbon dioxide. Severe reaction, convulsions. Okay, call for help for the assistance of the blood bank physician. Try to restrain the patient and provide also adequate airways. For the hematoma, cold compress to stop the bleeding and hot compress to lyse your clotted na blood. Okay, so that's all about our donors screening and collection procedure. Okay, thank you.